I think putting your easiest, low effort boss at the very end of the game, Ozma, absolute garbage. Trash. Trash, 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 trash.
What did he say?
The spider boss. I couldn't care for the music. I was unable to, even though people say that you can lock onto the arms. I was unable to do it in battle for some reason. All right? I'm not a big fan of spiders in the first place. Difficulty-wise, really not that bad. I'm going to give you a C. I don't remember her name. However, I found her to be a little bit more difficult for a very weird reason. And it's because you can brink guard almost any projectile in the game, except specific ones, and it feels random. It felt random. I kept getting killed by some of her skulls and projectiles. I didn't like the design so much of the arena. Everything was whites and purples, and things started to blend together a little too much, and I was getting hit by projectiles that I couldn't really see. I did think it was a really cool idea, though, however, for her to be able to summon, like, minions, and then it changed the dynamic of the fight. I did like that. So you're about average. I'm going to give you a B, okay? You're getting a C because a spider fight is kind of, yeah, Bellaran? Is that her name? Bellarian? I was going to say, like, ballerina or something like that. Yes, that one. So the spider fight is getting a C because it's like, that feels like a cop-out. That doesn't even feel like a boss design, right? You're only getting a C because of the difficulty, right? The difficulty. That's it. That's it. It's like, let's just put a real-world creature into a game and call it a day. I didn't like that. I don't like the whole spider theme. It's overdone, wore out, whatever. Hismar goes deep with, like, the lore of First Berserker. I didn't think they were going to bring Hismar back, but they did. I didn't see it in any trailers or anything like that, or any other gameplay. I was very happy about this boss. He was not that difficult, though. If I'm kind of balancing difficulty versus, boss design, the design is really cool. After fighting something like Bale in Elden Ring, though, my standards are kind of high for dragons. Bale is just so sick. I would still give you a B, though. I feel like B is pretty fair. Blade Phantom. Okay. Difficulty-wise, not difficult. I say that because my first time ever playing First Berserker, the demo, when it came out a couple of months ago, I beat it once, and then chat convinced me to run it again. And I was like, you know what? As a treat, I will do this fight no damage. Because I was like, it'd be nice to have a skillful fight to put on the YouTube channel. And I did it. He was not difficult. He wasn't difficult. Like, we did it all on the same day. We learned to fight, we mastered the fight, and we did it. But he is so freaking cool. Unfortunately, the coolness does not outweigh how easy the fight is. You're getting a C. One of my favorite fights now, even though she crushed me over and over and over and over. And I realized this was after like a 13-hour stream, and I was tired, but I was getting frustrated. Elamane. Bro, Elamane freaking rules. Yeah, she has a shield and sword. I love her moveset. I love the voice acting. And I think that's a very important part of boss design as well. Not only was our character like trying to talk to Elamane, we heard the Phantom in the background, but even like the grunts in the fight or something like that, when she's like exasperating and doing like a big move, you hear like grunting and stuff like that. Those little things I really love. And she was quite difficult because of her shield. Her shield blocked so many of attacks, and until I could really get the hang of it, she gave me the business. I'm going to give you an A. I like it. I like the fight. She's not the most difficult, though, but she's like the OG waifu here, okay? Princess Elena. You know what? This one is kind of tough, man. This one's kind of tough. You know what? Guys, I changed my mind. Elamane's getting an S, okay? I struggled with her far more, and I don't know why, even though she's easy for me now. I struggled with her far more than I care to admit, but I'll admit it. Than someone like Princess Elena. This fight was so freaking cool for like one main thing. Her attacks were in music notes, right? She would do this like sheet music thing in front of you, and if you stood in it, you would get damaged. There was also an element of chaos being inflicted on you, which sucks in any fight because your overall health is reduced. And when she transitions to phase 2, this whole like dead choir comes up in the background, and they go like, oh. I'm like, that's creative, that's badass, and she hits like a truck. I loved that fight. You're getting an A. Renkus, I think his name is. This guy was an a-hole, man. This guy was kind of an a-hole. As far as the boss design, I was not that impressed. Okay? Because at this point in the game, you go from a lot of melee-based combat and kind of predictable things you can guard against and dodge out of the way of. And this guy gets, like, the hardest-hitting weapon in the game, number 1. And 2, it shoots bullets and arrows and fire. And it was more of an annoyance. Like, the design of the fight was more of an annoyance than actual fun. And let's add to the fact that his brother is a copy-and-paste fight of this. I'm not a big fan of those kind of fights. I should probably even rate the spider a little bit lower, but he's getting that because it was just annoying and pain in the ass. But you're also going to get a, let me think. Yeah, you're going to get a C. You're only getting a C because your annoyance is the difficult part. Annoying. That's it. Up next, we have Reese. Reese. Okay, why did they give all the freaking cool fights to the waifus? Reese was badass. I think Reese was cool. That, like, pure mage. I liked it, and she had an entire second phase where she turned into a demonic creature, and it was, I liked the design. I really did. So, that may be an unpopular opinion, but I think you're going to get an A. I think you're going to get an A. There was quite a level of difficulty to it at first, but it's really not so bad now. She has a very small HP pool. But she can be difficult if you don't know what you're doing. Plain and simple. All right, we got this beast guy. I forgot who or what his name is, but he's in the underground prison when you're trying to rescue some of your soldiers. He was not difficult. He was not difficult at all, guys. In fact, he was probably the easiest thing. I made a build video because I discovered something in the game. If you haven't seen the build video, click on the thumbnail, right? If you haven't seen the build video, this was the first time that I learned in the game that not only can you do a status proc on an enemy, you can double proc them, okay? I was able to set him on fire, not once, but twice, and not consecutively, simultaneously. I was doing double fire damage on him. He was remarkably easy, kind of fun. But for that reason, you're probably going to get a D. All right? You were not that difficult, and it seemed like a cop-out boss design. You just put a beast in a chain around his neck. It's very reminiscent of some other things that I've seen in Souls games. Not overly creative. And up next, we have possibly one of the coolest fights. One of the coolest fights. Shaktua? I don't know. Shaktuka? One of the coolest fights in the entire game. Okay, I did not appreciate it until after I beat it. Difficult? Yes, because I didn't know what the freak I was doing. Dope boss design, A+ job by trolling me in that fight, making me think he was dead, and he came back to life. Classic Souls experience right there. I loved it. The only problem was like the self-destruct mechanic in phase 2. You can kind of cheese your way through it. Just like outpace him and dodge, outpace and dodge. I struggled during the fight while learning it. I have a much better handle on it now, obviously, after some practice. But you get a solid A, sir. Very, very cool fight. Very cool fight. And I think the only reason I'm not giving you an S, though, is, I don't know. I think the plague magic is like a little too much, in my opinion. You know? That kind of sets me on like, every hit can like status affect you in some way. So, and I don't like bosses that do this very particular thing, okay? Or enemies in general that do this thing. And a lot of Souls games want to do this kind of thing. And this is what I like to call, could be classified, I guess, as artificial difficulty. When an enemy goes to swing their sword and they do this, and they're winding up, they do a wind up and they're about to come at you, and then they do a secondary wind up for no good reason at all. No good reason at all. This guy did it all the time. That just annoys me. That's dumb. I think that's dumb. If you're about to like swing a sword at somebody, you don't wind up and then wind up a second time before it's misdirection. It's kind of annoying, and I know why you're doing it, but that's like artificial difficulty to throw somebody off. I get it. But it's just it feels so unnatural. When I was fighting Elamane, when she was about to wind up and swing her sword, it happened. Plain and simple. Okay. Waifu number 5? Number 5? Troka. Troka was not too difficult. She gave us a lot of counters that we could capitalize on. She gave us a damn near unblockable attack in phase 2 when she goes up into the water wall and starts throwing all those projectiles. I don't know. Boss design, it was okay. It's the only fight that seems to take place in water, so points for that, I guess. Not overly difficult. She does have a weird mechanic where if you do get hit by her, she takes away your stamina. And because the game is so stamina driven, that's another thing you have to combat with. You can't get hit, otherwise she will reduce your stamina to basically nothing. Difficulty wise, you know what? You're probably in there with a B. That seems fair to me. It's a pretty balanced fight. Yeah. You can use lightning on your weapon to really put some numbers on her, put a hurting on her. I like that. One of my personal favorite fights is Volbino, okay? And for a couple of reasons. One, Volbino, the soundtrack is like the best in the game. The music for that fight is one of the best in the game. Secondly, he forces you to play differently. Instead of guarding everything, when he sets his nail on fire, if you do not want to get damaged, you have to dodge that. So he'll do sequences of left arm attack, right arm attack, da-da-da-da, back and forth, right? So it forces you to dodge instead of, oh, I can just sit here and guard, even if you're really good at brink guarding. Nope. You're going to take damage if you get hit because it counts as like elemental damage. I love that about him. The soundtrack was cool. He's not difficult. He's really not. He can still punish you, but because of the boss design, I loved it. You're like, and I'm not rating this on difficulty, but I love the design. You're still getting a B. I like the design. I like the music. It happens in like a storehouse. You know, it feels very, I don't know, almost like a horror movie, like the storehouse that you're in. And that's part of the reason why you're getting a B. The design is cooler than the difficulty. So, Volbino, yeah, he's got that like Doom soundtrack kind of going on. It's so cool. All right, up next, we have Yetuga, I believe his name is, right? Opening boss of the game. First boss you run into. Honestly, chat, not impressed. Not impressed. He's got the same exact movesets as those, what do you call them? The apes, the big monkeys, the big apes. They have those weird crystals on their back. You can find them almost anywhere, right? He has the exact same moveset, with the exception of picking up a giant rock and like dropping it on your head, and the ice, like the AoE ice thing on the ground. But the same moveset. Design-wise, meh. You know, I'm not thoroughly impressed. You're gonna get a D. D. Plain and simple. I respect you for like, I guess, the skill check of a brand new game, but you're not difficult. There's nothing particularly amazing about the arena, the boss music, nothing like that. So that's where you're going. Up next, Maluka. This man was actually a skill check. Not in phase 1. Yo, that phase 2 surprised the absolute hell out of me, man. It really did. Okay? Maluka is freaking cool. Maybe a few too many particle effects on the screen in Phase 2. But when you understand what particle effects are basically like either startup frames or they are, what should I say? You can identify what move's coming based on like crazy particle effects and what's about to happen. I don't know. Fighting an enemy with a katana, it just turned out to be cool. It was your first introduction to like the chaos effect, and you're like, oh crap, what do I do? He cooked so many people. Yes, you're right. He cooked so many people. I think Maluka is badass in both his moveset, the boss design, the color scheme. The color scheme was a nice introduction. The purple, you know, kind of like almost a neon purple going on in that. I love the katana moveset, and for that reason, you're going to get an A. Very cool fight. Very cool. Not overly difficult, but really cool and very well designed. Up next, we got Viper. Guys, I don't understand. Help me understand why so many people had a problem, at least within the community, that they had to nerf Viper. He's not difficult. He's not hard. He never was. We beat him day one, well, before the game's release. We had early access. We beat him day one, right? I fail to understand why people. I fail to see why people thought he was so difficult. I don't know. Why did he need a nerf? He was fine. He was fine. I'm not thrilled with the boss design. Phase 2 was too dark and foggy. I can agree with that, but that's part of the difficulty, right? He turns out the lights on us. Some could argue that's like an artificial difficulty, like how I'm supposed to be able to see, man, you know? I would say better sound cues would need to be a thing in Phase 2 if you're going to keep it dark. I will agree with that. However, how many enemies do you run into that are exactly like Viper in this game? Small enemies. Not even just like elite enemies. And they have the exact same moveset with the exact same weapon. How many do you run into it in this game? Way too many, exactly. So for that reason alone, while he's a very cool, more introductory boss, you fight him earlier in the game. While he's cool then, the coolness really starts to wear out when you find out he's basically a copy and paste. I felt the same way about the misbegotten warriors in Elden Ring when they just started popping up all over the place. Not nearly as bad, though. In this game, smaller versions of him are everywhere. Everywhere. So, for that reason, you're not getting that high of a rating. You still get a C. How about that? You still get a C. All right. And last but not least, I know I was trolling you guys a little bit. Ozma. A 2, potentially 3 phase boss. And in my opinion, other than like the absurd amount of AoE attacks, I like the fact that even though he is a very difficult fight, extremely difficult, I like the fact that you can telegraph his moves. If you learn to fight, you can telegraph his moves. It's not like, well, he's so difficult because he's doing all these things I can't really pay attention to, and it's too much going on the screen. It seems that way, but it's really not. If you telegraph his moves, like you can see everything coming. I like when a boss holds a weapon and he swings it at you, you know when it's about to happen, and you have the whether you have the skill or not to either guard it or deflect it, something like that, that's on you. So, in my opinion, a very well-balanced fight if you know what you're doing. Obviously, Ozma's getting an S. I mean, he's amazing. YouTube, if you liked the video, please make sure to hit like and subscribe on the channel. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay deadly. I'll catch you in the next video.